Hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends. Today I want to talk about the Unkillable 2.0 comp and its problems and issues with the Spirit Affinity clan boss. And as fate would have it, look what we have today. My third key is going to be on the Ultra Nightmare clan boss that is indeed Spirit Affinity. Now, as I get to jump in here, I'm going to show you my usual team. This is the team I use to run my void keys. I typically run 2 void keys. There was a time when I would wait for my second key just because I knew that I didn't really need the void affinity. However, since the nerf has come down, we've had to come up with new ways to create the number of kills I want, so which is typically a 3 key, or even I'm trying to push for a 2 key system using the Ultra Nightmare clan boss setup. In order to do this, once again, my last video, as I said before, many thanks to Murder Inc. and his tutelage and help in getting this right. I have the Ultra Nightmare clan boss here, where we do something slightly different. Now, in a normal Ultra Nightmare clan boss, as with any speed-tuned clan boss team, everything is speed-tuned to the clan boss. So the clan boss goes 191 speed, and your way to do that is to go faster than that every turn. Alternatively, you can tune to 170, which allows the clan boss to go first, but because of the turn meter mechanic and how it works, you will always be ahead of the game after that first turn. Either way is perfectly sufficient and works very well. The problem with Ultra Nightmare is that now that we are only allowed 50 rounds before it can ignore our Unkillable and Immortal comps, is we can no longer do the kind of damage we want and still get a 1, 2, or 3 key system. I did have a 4 key system with that, but I was able to recreate the system. And now what I have is I have 3 champions that are tuned to the clan boss speed and 2 champions that are tuned to each other. And that's a very big difference, and that is what the precursor is to the issue we have with the Spirit Affinity. When these two, Roshkard and Sir Nick, are tuned to each other, that means that they are leapfrogging the other 3 in a very specific turn order that allows A, for Doom Priest to still properly cleanse the stun in case one of these 2 champions is stunned, and B, allows the turn meter progression to happen in such a way that they mitigate that 1 turn difference where under the normal 5-man speed tune to the clan boss, Roshkard is left vulnerable. The problem here, as I had discovered, is that when you get a Spirit Affinity clan boss who puts a slow on turn number 2, and then subsequently every 3rd turn after that, you run into issues. Now, I originally thought the issue was Roshkard. However, it isn't. Roshkard completely runs through. He gets cleansed properly. Then I thought maybe it was Sir Nick. Maybe Sir Nick was supposed to be there to put his Unkillable on so that Roshkard could live. But that was not the issue either. And what I found out had nothing to do with the speeds, but instead had to do with the way that turn meter works. You see, and this was the problem with me trying to work on this team to begin with. I was trying to get my whole team to lap the clan boss once, and that doesn't work very well. What you see is if you check the first couple turns here, and I will run it in a minute, and you'll see through the first couple turns how the 2, Roshkard and Sir Nick, leapfrog the other champions as they get back into the turn order they need to be able to set up their Unkillable and or Immortal to continue the run. And what happens under Spirit Affinity is that there is a kind of a train of issues. The first issue is that Doom Priest has been shadow nerfed. She's actually not been nerfed so much as she does what she's supposed to do. If you read her passive, it says heals all allies by 7.5% of their HP and removes 1 random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn. This is not how it worked prior to 1.13. It actually would always remove the last buff place, so you could reliably count on that to remove, in this particular case, the debuff on speed. This no longer happens, and that sets a chain reaction. So now, whenever she cleanses, she will always cleanse the speed debuff off of Roshkard and Sir Nick. So that is not the problem. The problem is that she will not always cleanse off of my 2 occult brawlers. I have not tried this with any other poisoners. It is something that I am going to test in the future, but for now, because I don't have the spare key, we just got one. Maybe I'll try it tomorrow just to find out whether or not it changes anything. Knowing my luck, I'll probably get Spirit Clan Boss again. But with the occult brawlers, what happens is they put poisons on themselves every turn. Now she cleanses, but in the case of this one, they have a poison on them and then they have the speed debuff. So now they have 2 debuffs on themselves, and there's a 50-50 chance, and at some point she removes the wrong one, and over several turns, usually around the 3 to 5 minute mark, there is a point where Roshkard is actually unprotected. And what's strange is then he will go under several different turns in a row, cycles in a row, where he is protected again. But then guess what happens? For one turn, around the 5 minute mark, usually between 5 and 6 minutes on my computer at least, it happens again. And at this point, he can't take the damage that's being produced by the clan boss, and he dies, and the turn is over. And this usually results in about 8 to 10 million ki, which is not enough to 3 ki. So how do we fix this? Well, I know this is going to be a shock to you. I ramble on for so long, so I'm just going to have to dub over and get right to the point. The point is, you're going to need a block debuffs in place of one of your damage dealers. The one I really want to use is Grizzled Jarl. I find he does very good damage in my my free-to-play account. I feel like his damage will help mitigate some of the loss you get from taking out 2 occult brawlers. But unfortunately at this time, he's only level 50. I still need some books to get him down to a 3-turn cooldown. He's also really good in any sort of comp where you're not using Unkillable, because he does have a decreased attack that you can get down to 4 turns. On my free-to-play account, I use that in conjunction with my Martyr, and they can keep the attack down. They can basically pass it back and forth between each other. It's a little bit scary at times because you're basically expecting them to hit it 100% of the time with no misses. But I don't have a Tyrell, I don't have a Jareg, I don't have a Padma, so I need to use them to do that. Anyway, I digress. This is who I have, Mausoleum Mage. I do have him booked. He is on a 3-turn cooldown. Is he also, by the way, his A3 does not get prioritized over his A2. I'm sure there's conditions where it will, but in this particular case, it doesn't. And I think it's because there's never 2 debuffs on at the same time, because he's blocking that second debuff. So it'll never have a chance where he's like, oh, I better use my A3. I've run him 5 times now, and he's perfectly fine. So we're going to speed ahead. I'm going to let you see what happens. We're going to set up the turn order here so we can talk a little bit about what happens, and then we'll run it through in quick time. And then at the end, we'll get some final thoughts, and we'll leave you to your vices. Okay, let's talk about 2 things very briefly now that we're ready to run this event here. Okay, let's just talk about this first, and then we'll get into what I want to say. First of all, we're setting up the turn meter. We're setting up the turn order, so your Cernyk's gonna go, then you're gonna attack. You're gonna set it up here, so the attack up. Your Cult Brawler's gonna hit. Your Mausoleum Mage. This is turn 1. So turn 1, you're just gonna use your attack. You could use a Winds of Purging, but it's not really a big deal, I think is what I was saying on the original video. And because that 2 or more debuff removed is the turn meter manipulation, it never happened. So you're gonna hit that. Everything's good, and then the second turn, you're just gonna again use out your turns, set your turn order of events here, and then you've got the cleanse and everything, so that's good. Now here's the first point when I talk about that leapfrogging. Here's where it is. Now Cernyk jumped ahead of Mausoleum Mage for his 2 turns in 1 round, and then the Mausoleum Mage goes, and this is where you're gonna block it, because turn 2 is where you get the speed debuff. And you notice that he's going before Roshkard, so Roshkard is actually vulnerable to the speed debuff, but it's not enough. It gets cleansed rather quickly, and so it's not an issue. You see it lands here, but everything's good. So at this point, we're gonna fast forward here, and I'll meet you at the end of the run, which I'm gonna stop early because I have clanmate things to consider. I don't want to take away from their damage just to show you a video, but trust me, this thing will run a full term and do about 20 million, and we'll see how much it does on this, which I stop around 6 minutes. It should have been 5.5 minutes, but with the extra time chatting, I let it run a little bit longer. Okay, this is where we're going to take over for it. We'll transition in this weird sort of way. Woo, magics. We auto the last few turns here, or we manual the last few turns here to end it. And as you'll be able to see, and you can do the math for yourself on my computer, you can see that I ended at about 6 minutes. You can do the math and figure out, which is a side point. It is absolutely near unforgivable to me that I have to do math. I have to do math calculations, multiple math calculations, just to figure out what damage to do. You see, I go a little bit over. I'm at 73 and change instead of between 70 and 71. And that's 100% because Plarium refuses to acknowledge what is really important to the clans and the people who play this game. It is a common theme that happens over and over again, but it's worth mentioning that if I had a counter and I had the ability to do as much damage as I wanted, we wouldn't have an issue here. We have 16 people on this that are allowed to hit. My clan has 16 people hitting Ultra Nightmare. On a 30-man team, we have 3 Ultra Nightmare teams now because we can't put our best players on 1 or 2 teams. We can't split it up and, you know, have ability to foster leadership. We have like 9 or 12 shards now, I think we call them, just because of the inability for Plarium to put very simple things. Eliminate the HP and just make sure anyone and everyone up to 30 people get hit as much damage as humanly possible, and as long as they hit the threshold of 70, they get the top chest. If they don't get the top chest. But it's not reliant on how much health it has. It relies on our damage. It drives me absolutely bonkers, and it's something that has to be fixed. The second thing, and even easier to implement, is why they can't put a counter. A counter is simply a visual indicator of how much damage you've A, done to the clan boss, or B, that the clan boss has left. Either would work. I can do quick math. I can do simple math. If I know I have to do 24 million and I see that it's got 100 million and now it's got 70 million, I did 30 million. I did too much. I can figure that out. But do something, Plarium. Stop sitting there and trying to decide whether it's more important to give these lifestyle changes to your player base than it is to worry about nerfing Unkillable, or whether it's worth, you know, putting in bug fixes that break the server for a day. You are losing players. There are players playing a game like Calibria. Some of your major content creators have already switched over, and if you don't do something, you're only going to lose more. So I hope you hear this. I hope you listen. I hope you listen to everyone who's ever said anything about this. Fix the game. Make it enjoyable. Make it about the players, not about the money. If you give me a solid game with solid content, I will play. But until then, we're all gonna find other options. I didn't want to make this a rant video, but I thought it was something that I should say, how I feel about it, and I tell you, I'm gonna make a video about Calibria, a review of it, and what I think, because I think we finally have someone that we can play until Plarium and Raid decide to get on the same page with their player base and decide to do something for us instead of just for profits. That's all I have to say. Stay tuned to the next video, which is probably going to be the review on Calibria. I also have a lot of different things on my Nightmare series, and probably Dungeons and Dragons, oh my, and everything else. So stay tuned. I'm back after a 4-day hiatus. I was visiting family, but I thank you for tuning in. I hope you like, subscribe, share with your friends, help the channel grow. I really enjoy doing this, and I need your help to get it out there. So in the meantime, hey, don't eat yellow snow. Keep your stick on the ice. Be good to one another. Don't forget, be kind. And have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in.